Hello guys and welcome back to the Cash Game Festival. We've moved across the continent, now in Bucharest, Romania, and we're looking forward to getting things kick-started here with some 2-2, 4 and 5 card PLO. Actually quite an interesting sight at the table, as you'll be able to see some of the tables filling up in the background throughout the week. And we are running this week in conjunction with the NetBet Open, which is a €330, 100k euro guaranteed tournament with some juicy looking side events as well. So thanks for having us, Poker in Bucharest, and let's get things kicked off. Andreas there, you can see, who's played quite a lot on the Cash Game Festival, one of the organisers of the events, is in the mix, and good to see a early swig of beer there, hopefully setting the tone for what we're going to see over the next 2 hours. Just 2 streams today. We're going to have some 2-2, 4 and 5 card, and also to close things out today, we're going to have 2-5 no limit hold'em.
Check. 6 bets. 10. 1 call. 3 call. 4 check.
So yet to see Barrett or Miron's cards, but not the best board for Ante, although he does have a gut shot straight flush draw. When it becomes a paired board, that does decrease in relevance somewhat. 7 on the river, so the only hand we can see is 10s and 4s, which is very unlikely to be good in 5 card Omaha 3 ways, of course. But fairly passive action so far. Berra there in seat 6, deciding his option.
1 call.
And gets it through with the bet. So chip counts, guys buying in relatively deep, which is usually a surprise in Omaha, as people do tend to try and spin it up at the start and then buy in a bit deeper once you have sort of some winners and losers emerging in the game. So do let us know where you're tuning in from today, guys. Glad to see some of you joining us. Let us know where you come from, what you're up to, if there's any poker on the agenda for you.
500.
Looks like it's going to be a fun week here in Bucharest. I was actually out on a bit of a mad one with Sam Clark, who does some of the vlogging that you'll be able to see over the next few weeks. And things got a little bit out of line, that's for sure. But yeah, great city and very vibrant nightlife, especially on a Tuesday night, which was always a welcome surprise. So Berra with, oh, it looks like it's going to be 4 card this time. Ante is going to be in. Graphics are taking a while to warm up potentially. See what happens. So limpy here, and Izzet has quite a nice hand to squeeze. Queen Jack 10 deuce there, double suited. It's going to hit a lot of boards. Certainly I would be opening that one up there. 8-8-5, no help to Izzet. Yet to see Marius's cards. And Ante's still in the pot as well, so a couple of issues here.
3 call. 6 4. 2 players. $120. 3 call. One check. Check.
Checks down to the river, and Ante shows his 8, and it looks like that's going to win the massive €8 pot. So I'm not really too sure what's going on with the graphics, so I'll just go and ask the team about that.
King, 5. Eight fold. 9 fold. 1 call. 2 fold. 3 fold. 4 raise. 10. 6 call. 7 raise. 42. 1 4. 4 call. 6 4. Heads up.
So still trying to work out what's going on.
85.
Looks like, it's potted the flop there with middle pair and a diamond blocker, which is interesting. That should bode well for some decent action coming up if we're going to see the likes of that. Let's get some information on some of the players.
7 check.
And seat number 8, you can see there, reggish looking player with certainly the stature and table demeanour of someone that knows his way around the cards. His name is Andre Bleu, 26 years old. Favourite hand is Ace-3 suited, and he says his best achievement in poker is beating 200 NL, so I assume that means online, which is a very high standard if so. So he'll be one to watch throughout the week to see what he's up to. Miron here really blasting off with the top and bottom pair on the flop. Does add a gutter to the mix, but here we go. So we've got the pre-flop flop and turn graphics now as well. And I guess he's just potting there for some protection. Thinks he has the best hand when he doesn't get raised on the flop. Doesn't have any diamonds and is looking to, fold some equity. Some 8-7-6s that could be in there that have a wrap. Some diamonds. So just looking to take that one down and not have to face a sweaty river card out of. Oh, he was in position. Don't mind it at all. So. He said his favourite player is Andre Waters, was this Andre in seat 8, 26-year-old poker player. Looks like he's professional. Most people, when they fill in the questionnaires that we give them, if they are a professional poker, say something like data analyst or what was one? One of them was fisherman, which I quite liked. Okay, so ace 10, great flop for Berra there, who flops top trips.
6 bet 25, 1 4.
And probably not going to get a whole lot of action here, is it, with just pocket kings. Multi-way here, it's going to be very likely for one of your opponents at least to have an ace. So whilst it might be a relatively safe board in Hold'em, when it comes to 4 card, 5 card, and however many cards you like Omaha, it definitely does change that kind of board texture.
Change.
So we're going to have some 2-5 coming up later for you guys, the No Limit Hold'em fans. Interesting to see this player play, as I've been playing a couple of games with him. I got here on Monday, played some 1-2-5, 1-2-5 5-card OMR, which was an interesting game. And a bit of OFC, Open Face Chinese Pineapple, earlier as well, which was good fun. I'm starting to see that being offered a lot more. It's pretty reasonable as well. They only charged us 100 ROM per hour rake, which is about 20 euros, but chopped between the three of us. So 6 euros an hour, and we're playing €1 a point. So I think pretty reasonable. Let us know where you're tuning in from, guys. Chat looks a bit dead at the moment. What you're up to, if you've got any questions at all, of course feel free to let us know. Any banter, anything really. That's what I'm here for. So Ante in the 5-card. Looks like we might be having a few problems with the picking up the graphics for 5-card. Pops it up to 4. Well, that might be the straddle actually. Quite unusual to see a min raise. Standardized opening sizes in PLO tend to usually weight towards, pot.
24.
As your opponents have a lot more equity against you than they would in the 2-card format.
There's someone called. Call. 4 players.
Nine, 6 deuce, 2 spades.
Check.
Still yet to see what anyone's got, but it looks like it was a multi-way single raise pot.
Bet 60.
Graphics deciding it's 4-card now. I believe it was 5 when we started, but quite a meaty pot there. You can see already brewing here.
Call 60.
Ante in seat 1, deciding to lead for about half pot, about 40% pot, and gets a call from Berra. So now we're looking at just over a 1 stack to pot ratio on the turn, and a pretty dicey looking card, which would usually favour Berra's hand here. Ante much more likely to be leading the flop with hands like sets, flush draws.
Player 1, bet 100.
Could have a hand like 8-7 with spades. I think 8-7-10 with no spades is a bit loose. Yeah, and you can see here Berra will stack off for the 3-3-1. Ante is weighing up his options. Don't think he liked that turn card based on the size. I think Berra here, when he does flat in position, is going to have a lot of wraps on the flop. Going to have hands like 8-7, maybe with bad spades. With good spades, he possibly raises. Tries to get it in, because he would be a favourite against a set if he had the full wrap with the flush draw. So mulling it over here, 284 would be a pot of 1,000, so he's getting about 4-1. Decides to let it go and gets shown 8-8. I think he had it, to be honest, based on the timing as well. It's very unlikely that he's just floating the flop at just over a 1 SPR to try and pot it in there on the off chance that his opponent checks. Pretty sure he'd have had the goods there. A lot of the pocket 8s that he wants to play multi-way as well are going to have some connectivity around them with like 9s or 7s too, so it's fairly likely that he had the goods, especially with the timing. It took him about 2 seconds to announce all in. And for that timing, it's unlikely that he'd have been able to factor in any kind of bluffing range, which is, usually a good river timing tell that you do see at live poker when people are just sort of move instantly all in a spot where like it's quite a wet board texture and there's a lot of possible bluffs. It kind of eliminates a lot of those. Especially when it's a big pot by the river, it could be a lot different pre-flop and on the flop. But it's something that has definitely been quite consistent with, some especially pot limit games I've been playing. You tend to think that people would wait a little bit more time to weigh up their options and decide what hands they want to bluff with or not, if they are considering a bluff.
Player 2 calls.
Don't leave me hanging, guys. Get involved in the chat. I want to hear what you're up to. Whether you will be coming to a future cash game stop, whether you're in Bucharest getting ready for some poker action this week, do let us know. So Barrett in the cutoff here with not a very good hand at all really. It looks fairly connected, but you've got 3 low spades there and gaps all over the place. Looks like he wants to raise it up in position, which is probably the second best option. I'd probably just let this one go. It doesn't really perform multi-way, and it does look like quite a classical lineup we've got of relatively loose passive pre-flop action so far. Does flop the joint though.
Check.
The nut straight.
Player 7 bet 15.
Doesn't really have anything to go with it apart from middle pair either, so he's going to be looking to bet. I think half pot is on the smaller side because he's unblocking a lot of like 2 pairs sets, that kind of thing. I think you are going to get continue, and people are relatively inelastic in terms of their continuing ranges. And what I mean by that is that if they're continuing for half pot, they're usually continuing for pot, especially on the flop in Omaha. Looks like Miron's gone for the check raise here. Could potentially have the same hand. Could potentially have the same hand with a free roll, which would be a nice hand to get some more money in. No diamonds for Berra, so in 5 card it does open up the possibility to not wanting to get all of the money in now, because if you do get it in against a hand like King Jack with diamonds, you don't have a King or Jack of diamonds, so it's much more likely your opponent does, of course. The check raising range there on the flop it's unlikely to be a worse hand. But he does stack off, of course, and he's got the straight, and let's see whether Miron has that all-important free roll. Yeah, it's just going to be a chop-chop. I think that was a mistake there, just shoving. You can call and then represent a board pair on the river. There are a lot more options rather than just getting it in. Usually your opponent is going to have some kind of free roll equity against you, which makes your life difficult, and it means that you're only going to have 50% of the time, 50% of the pot at best, and sometimes getting scooped. So both of them, anyway, drawing a €7 profit each, which is a sigh of relief, especially for Berra there, who had absolutely nothing to go with his straight.
Change the deck.
Not too sure about that, Mattis. Usually rake is being taken, but if you haven't seen the dealer take anything there, let me know. That's an interesting point. Has he got a rake tray there? I'll have a little look at a different angle there. Usually they're collecting it to the left-hand side, but it just doesn't look like there's a tray there, does it? Might be a session fee. I paid a session fee earlier. Sam Clark Poker sat trying to make some sense of this 5-card mayhem. Yeah, it's definitely an interesting one to wrap your head around. A very common spot there that you see people tend to overplay, especially if they're more suited towards 2-card and 4-card, is the having the nuts and getting it all in without the redraw. so much,
playing four cards.
so
Small big,
likely that
please.
your opponent has the same hand if they're especially check raising out of position on an ace queen 10, which is, you know, a board that favors the squeezing range quite heavily. You know, you're going to have some aces, going to have some good queens in there as well. So for someone to check raise that, you know, they could be turning maybe kings or jacks with the blockers into a bluff.
Big blind, please.
Much more likely to just be the lot. Anyway, I digress. Back for some more 2-2, 2-5, no limit hold'em coming up later on. Should be fun for you guys. And there's Nightbot.
It's too late, sir.
Vertical 1177. Hello, hello, hello. Got a little wink face in there as well. Very kind.
4 raise 7. Pass, pass.
Hello yourself.
Call 7. Pass.
Oh, what a lovely hand here for Miron, who decides to limp, possibly looking to go for a back raise here.
4 players.
Double suited, connected, ready to go, but just not really getting much. Oh, yeah, he has raised to 7. I do beg your pardon. Stefan calling in the cutoff with double suited queens. Seems good. Don't think we want to be 3-betting this hand.
30.
Haha, it's Matoush. How you doing, mate?
30. Pass.
Is Marit still alive after the soccer derby, says Seat Open. Can't confirm on that one. Yeah, definitely looking a bit worse for wear, but he's alright.
I'm alive.
He is alive.
He's alive. Barely.
Barely. He's hanging on in there for dear life. So middle set for Stefan. Going to be betting when checked too. I like that decision. And looks like a swing and a miss for pretty much all of his opponents there. Miron just with the naked top pair. No, nothing to back it up. Could be dead. It's a good discipline fold. Is that one of your colleagues there? Is he open?
You can tell Seat Open that I've actually tied my shoelaces.
Floor.
Yep.
He understands.
He's tied his shoelaces.
Yeah.
Must
Random
it-
forest.
Matoush! Thanks for joining the chat, mate.
Player
If you don't know, guys, he is the PLO champion, so if you want any strategy advice, we have Vertical 1177 there in the chat at your needs.
How many cards? You're playing 5 cards.
Card room starting to fill up, which is good to see. Had some tournaments running alongside the Cash Game Festival today, and that will be going throughout the week. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like I'm going to be able to hop into a day one, as I am obviously the commentating commitments. But there might be an off chance of me hopping in the PLO tournament, which would be fun. Do let us know what you guys are up to if you are watching in terms of your poker-related activities this week.
Player 4.
Always good to hear of any successes that you might have had. So, still encountering a few issues with the 5-card graphics. Not really picking up anyone's hand. I don't know if that's the fault of their own or just the RFID. We will get to the bottom of that shortly. Here we go.
Call time.
So Berra there with double suited ace 8, 5, 4 deuce. Not the best hand in the world. Does look a lot prettier than it is because, you know, you're going to flop a lot of bottom end of the straights and going to be quite unlikely to improve unless you do have hit that nut flush, which, you know, you've got 3 of. So probably just folding that in early position, if I'm honest. Decent flop here for Marius. Flopping himself an open ender. Got a pair in there. And let's have a look and see what Stefan has. He's got single suited 5s with the ace king queen. So nut gut shot for him. Marius will be hoping for a 7. And Berra has bottom pair. No Limit Hold'em says, when's Cash Game Festival back to Estonia? I'm sure that'll be coming up next year. We haven't had the schedule announced for the next time that we are in town. But I will let you guys know, and we'll get that out on our social media channels as soon as we have that information. Lone 4 Card says, what game is this? Big O. No, it's, I think Big O is 5 card high low, right? This is just 5 card or 4 card high. dealer's choice. So we've had mostly 5-carders. It does tend to revolve around the game with more cards when it is dealer's choice. We did have some 6-card action on outer tables last time at the Cash Game Festival, which was a lot of fun. Said it many times, I think PLO does tend to attract a more vibrant crowd, more boisterous, that's for sure. Usually the noise in the table will be around the Omaha, just because there is a lot more variance in the game, so it attracts people that just want to come and have a gamble. Okie dokes. So looks like a relatively healthy bet there. Those greens are 25 apiece. I was playing 2% rake on Monday night, but we were playing in the local currency, which is lei. I think this game will be 4% capped at 25, which is something that has been quite consistent in our sort of more Eastern European destinations. Yeah, I agree. Estonia was one of my favourites in terms of rake. Very reasonable, especially for how good the games are during some of the festivals as well. I'm going to be coming back there for some 5-card surely very soon. One of my favourite stops actually, staying in the Hilton's really nice as well. Really good poker event.
Player 8, raise 125.
So a big raise from Andre here in seat 8 with top 2 pair and nothing to improve it with. It's rather ambitious, I think, in my opinion, when there's a possible 4-5 out there and you have no clubs in your hand. It's possibly a bit of an overplay, but does seem like he is from a No Limit Hold'em background, which he said in the interview's questionnaire. So, I mean, let's see if it works out for him. It's a 3 on the turn, which could be a good card to represent now. Turn your hand into a bluff against some overpairs with like a flush draw, hands like that. Ante did 3-bet pre-flop, so he is very likely to have a hand like aces or kings with clubs having continued on the flop. Interesting to see what Ante's decision will be now, and It looked like a fold there, but we've just panned around. Yeah, and he does decide to fold. So Andre picking up a pot there, even though the turn card wasn't too kind for him. Does have the blockers to the top set and middle set. Very key cards to have when the bottom card pairs, of course. So good to see him continue there. Looks like he was potentially setting up a bluff. Could have also been thinking that Ante doesn't have much 4-5 in his range because he did 3-bet pre-flop, so his hand is going to be good there a lot of the time. However, there's also a lot of connectivity with that board in terms of straight draws, flush draws, and just a lot of pretty awkward turns. I think it's quite nice to play that hand as a check call and then start to raise hands like that for thin value if we do have the side cards to go with it. So Stefan with a very playable hand here, electing to, I'm guessing, pot one of those. You see the green chips there are 25 euros, the reds are 5, and the blues are 1 for your information. So looks like we've got some straddles in play. Let's go. Got a bit of juicy action flying now as we're already three-way and the cut-off's not even acted yet.
Call 16. Pass.
So pops it up to 16 and gets so far 4 callers. So great action. And Barrow's going to come along with the single-suited jacks and some connected side cards as well. Don't mind it. If you do flop a jack, you're getting a pretty good price, closing the action. If you do flop a jack, it's very likely to be top set, so very playable hand. And there is the top set for him. And he does even have the open-ender as well, and a spade blocker, so he's got the absolute lot, really. Stefan has an overpair with nut spades. I wouldn't really like to see it continue here 5 ways because, yeah, you do have nut spades, but there's a lot of wraps, there's a lot of 2 pairs out there. Do you really want to be stacking off with just the naked nut flush draw? Probably not. But he does continue for 85. Andre next to act. Looked like he flicked in a call there. Yes, he did indeed call. Ante has bottom set now, and it's one of those disastrous spots that you do get in 5-card Omaha when you play these small pairs. You flop what seems to be a strong hand, but you're in jail a lot of the time if you do get more bets in. And Andre raised to 150 and Ante cold called with, and look at this action, Berra sitting there with top set and everyone's going absolutely bananas in front of him. Must be absolutely loving life. So Stefan, now it's 4 ways, has kind of got the price to be able to stack off here with top set. Ante's looking for a 5 that isn't coming. He needs, what does he need? He needs running Queen 10. I think Ante should be able to get away from this one without the side card backup as well, just a naked bottom set. And it looks like C8 Andre is all in too. First board, there's the nut spade. Second board, Jacks improves to a straight, but there's a 3 of spades, so he makes it with the boat. Looks like 1 each between Berra and Andre there. So they're going to chop it up. A couple of other callers there on the flop, some pretty loose pre-flop action as well. So about 150 profit each. I think that seems pretty reasonable in a game where there's a lot of variance, like 5 cards, to be running it more than once in the bigger pots there. It was 1.7k by the end of that. And good to see Ante in seat 1 there getting away, discipline lay down. Botovic. One of my favourite words, especially after I've had a few. Botovic. Or Botovici. Or Botovici, if you're in Russia. Ooh. Oh, that's a bit better. Oh. So, Limpy McLimperson so far gets round to the dealer button. He's been playing quite solid there, seat 5. Interesting to see. I think he is a professional, so possibly the reason why. In a game where people are playing quite loose and playing too many hands, you know, the good adjustment there is to sit tight and wait for hands that dominate their hands that they're overplaying. You know, like hands like these double suited with a non-nutted suit. Just going to get yourself into a hell of a lot of trouble when money does fly in and you hit your flush. So, Andre there is quite a nice hand. Double suited queens pre-flop with some side card connectivity. Does flop that tricky little second nut flush draw, and he is 7 ways I believe, sorry. So that can make life a bit more difficult, but he's going to lead out, gets the betting started with a bet of 25. He's got bottom 2 there and a gut shot. Wouldn't be the nut gut shot, would it, the jack? That would mean King Queen got there, but he blocks that as well. So yeah, nice playable hand that he wants to thin the field with. What the hell is Ante is in there with gut shot, backdoor spades, and bottom pair.
He's not with my name.
So 6 of spades on the turn, improving Ante now to an open-ender with spades. And he's actually got 3 straight draws. Open-ended with the 7-5 and the nut gut shot. So 2 of his straight draws to the nuts. He's folded? What? Oh no, he must have folded the flop. Okay, so graphical error there. And Andre now going to give up on spades, has none in his hand. Very possible that his opponent is going to have some sort of some spades in the double continuing range. Looks like he's weighing up a river bet. And does indeed go for, looks like a relatively small sizing 125. Yeah, just under 40% pot. And not really too sure what Andre is weighing up here. I guess he could think that a lot of the straight draws have bricked. Hands like King, Queen, Jack blocks that pretty hard though. Missed clubs, he's got the blockers for those. Does call it off. Can't have been based on a live tell or anything, because he didn't really look at his opponent. And it looks like his opponent has backdoored the nut flush. Is the problem when the ace is a club as well, because that means that your opponent could be continuing with like a 2 pair that backdoor the flush. But that's juicy little value bet there from seat 2 getting paid off. That's the first time I've seen seat 5 smiling all week, getting that massage. always got something to moan about usually on the table, which is, you know, an interesting characteristic. So a couple of limps. George, you're in seat 2. Pops it up to 10, which is the full pot. Gets a cold call there from Marius in the hijack, who has position in the hand over Ante and Stefan as well. Interesting middling sort of flop with no flush draw. 4 ways. I don't think you want to be continuing with your overpairs here if you are Giorgio. And a 6 on the turn, bringing backdoor flush draw. Again, kind of a card that is going to limit the action somewhat. People are often a lot more cautious on paired boards, especially when you've got 3 opponents, all of them have 5 cards. It does increase the likelihood that someone has hit that card. And he does go for a bet of 30. Looks like a couple of folds there. Oh no. Stefan's continued. No. Graphics all over the place. Sorry guys, do bear with me. Live update from the 1-2-NL. He's got top set and he's about to get the lot. Be careful, mate. Your opponent might be watching the stream. You never know. Unless it's some sort of sick reverse angle.
Puțin atenție, vă rugăm, posesorul autoturismului marca BMW, culoarea negru B143, Madalin Dinu Alexandru, B143, MDA, este
update, he backdoored us straight and instead gave him the lot. How's he got there with the backdoor straight when you've got top set? Do you have a front door flush draw or something? King 10-6 deuce deuce in the straddle. Giorgio, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. No, that can't be right. They've only got 4 in front of them. You can see the blue chips there are €1 a piece. Ace Jack Jack hitting Stefan there, who flops himself trips. Looks like he's going to lead out. Looking to protect his hand against flush draws, straight draws, etc. And just takes it down. No one else with the jack. Obviously no one with top set either by the looks of things. So gets that one through. Don't mind the lead. Obviously in a single raise pot there's a bit more likelihood that someone has aces. Oh yeah. Did you pay him off on the river then, Sam, or what happened? What was the action? So Andre in there in the small blind with a double suited hand, looks good, plays very poorly. I do have quite a tight small blind strategy in 5 card, and I think there's not too much good that can come of this hand without a nut suit. Gaps all over the place as well. It's an 8 on the river. No one really has much between Ante and Andre anyway. So 54 in there. Andre did call that turn bet. And Marius there in suit 5 getting the massage, checking back. And he's got ace king. Taking a little stabberino at it on the turn. Thinking no one's got a 5 here, I might have the best hand, try and get some value from some flush draws or straight draws or something of the like. Unfortunate sounding spot there, Sam. Fair enough. How big was the pot? Looks like they're a lot more relaxed with phones on the table. There's been a couple of guys that have been chatting during the hands. Nattering away on the old phone. So in the small blind, Ante raising it up to 8. Marius and Andre calling. Whoa, 3 aces on the board now. And Ante there working in a look of surprise. Not sure what to make of that. Marius now probing for 5. Will get called by pocket pairs. Does himself have 9s, which look to be good enough. So it looks like Giorgio is the big winner so far, having bought in for, I think, somewhere between 400 and 500. No, yeah, he's in for 500. So 336 euros for him. Profit, not bad. Oh, about an €850 pot. It's very sad indeed. Mr. Clark, you'll bounce back, mate. So wrap for Ante with King of Hearts blocker, which may become relevant later on in the hand. Miron and Stefan, once again, unable to see what exactly it is that they're playing with. They've been given a reminder to show their whole cards a little bit more often. Fully present them to the RFID. So how it works is you see those orange boxes there. You're supposed to put your cards on them, and they will. There's a tiny microchip in the cards that will be able to pick up what it is exactly they've got, and then be put straight away on the live stream. So Stefan bets, Ante calls. Does have a wrap without a flush draw, but you know does have the blocker, and looks like out of nowhere, Miron is joining the party, going for the old Potovic. Sorry, looks like Stefan was with the big raise there, seat 7. Ante's going to get out of the way, I like that, nice disciplined fold, and seat 4, Miron is all in, and looks like King Jack 9, Ace King Jack 9 versus wrap with a gut shot straight flush draw. Oh, so he'll need some help now, and is that going to do it? He's got a 2 in his hand. I don't think he's got a pair with it, so he loses the first board to the Jack High flush, as you can see there, for Miron. Second board isn't looking so good either, and it's running 3s, which means top boat, for Miron, who scoop a loop. Stefan desperately trying to find a pair with those 2 2s on the top. Oh no, of course not, because he was up against top set, sorry. We didn't see the Jack of Diamonds there. Thought he just had the Jack with flush draw. So very nice flop there for Miron, who's going to get the full double up to 1.1k, and he's the first player on the table to move above that all elusive €1,000 mark. Possibly an early start and an early contention for that PLO Cash Game Festival trophy. Do remember, guys, the most amount of big blinds won in a single session gets their hands on. We now have 3 trophies. So we've got PLO, we've got No Limit Hold'em, and we've got a mixed game trophy as well. And because we did see at previous festivals, it was always the 5-card people gambling on the last session that were taking home the trophy. So we thought, well, how can we better that? And instead of 1 package, it's now 3 packages, which is just another aspect of the added value that you can get here at the Cash Game Festival. Good games, good fun, and all importantly, that fun and friendly atmosphere that we do see here. So 15 hands, I'm surprised it's only been that much. I would have said it was probably about 20 or 25 so far. 15 hands an hour is a pretty slow, especially if you're a professional. You want to be playing in games with the quickest dealers as possible, because that's going to improve your win rate. So Andre calling the 12, Ante can't 3-bet to 15, so I'm not sure what that means. Might be 50. Berra there does have the single suited queens, a hand that is particularly overplayed in all aspects of pot limit Omaha. Does let it go, I like that. Good to see. Stefan, of course, now all in with a pair of 7s, and Queen Eye Hearts. Why wouldn't you be? And Ante's going to give him a spin, so let's see what Ante has got. Probably pocket aces, I guess, if he did 3-bet pre-flop. That's a good board for the range of hands that he can have. Oh! Disaster river there as Stefan gets there with the straight. And yes, indeed, Ante did have a commanding lead on the flop, only to be denied by a pesky jack on the river there. So Ante had the double suited ace king 10 with nut diamonds and king eye hearts. Yeah, it is quite a nice hand to squeeze pre-flop. With the 3 deuce though, that certainly limits your options and the amount of boards that you can hit where you've got nutted draws. Probably would just flat call just because of the 3 deuce side cards. Yes, it might mean that you get a little bit of extra equity as you do have some low wraps, but you know, how often is a 5 high or 6 high straight going to be good by the river in 5 card Omaha? Not very, that's for sure. Not a lot of straddling going on in this game, which is a shame, that's for sure. But it is the first session of the week, so maybe we're going to see people start to chase it back or win still as the week progresses, which is often a common theme. Sometimes the action can be a little bit slower on sort of Tuesday and Wednesday, but by Sunday everyone's doing it in. Ante raising to 10, Ante and flick back to that last graphic. So once again, just struggling ever so slightly to pick up what's going on.
75, sit 9, sit 1.
Reluctant looking fold there from the button. And Ante, our Cash Game Festival hero himself, takes one down. Hello, hello. Little different view here, as you can see. My boss Marit's working hard in the background there. Or hardly working. Who knows? And you can see over my head there's some tournament action. Oh no, that's the feature table, and then in the background of that table behind there, some more tournament action. So it's bustling here in Bucharest, which is good to see for a Wednesday night. Black coffee. Ante popping it up to 6. Pretty loosey-goosey there, with double suited with the ace, but no nutted suits in the mix. Looks like he's going to have a stab at the flop as well. Jack 8-3 with some overcards. Very nice looking flop for Marius there in suit 5. Top pair, backdoor flush draw, and the full Rapidapp. So he's for sure going to be getting some money in. Miriam in seat 4 with the mystery hand. Not quite sure what he's up to. Probably going to be something like Jack 8, pocket 8s. What's going on? How's Marius folded? No, he's popped it up. Good. And Miriam has let it go. So didn't quite get to see what he was holding. But I'd imagine a hand like 2 pair or some sort of weak straight draw with backdoor equity would be folding to the pot. Single suited kings there for Maritz, just going to be calling the straddle. Yes, finally some straddles in the mix. That's what we like to see, guys. Plenty more of that, hopefully. Double suited 6s for Marius with a nut suit. Does able to, instead of limping, looking to force the action, maybe knock out a couple of the stragglers in behind. Buys himself position if the button doesn't cold call, which is going to be quite a lot of the time. Very important factor, obviously, in 5-card Omaha, having position. Wow, what a flop for Andre there. Flops the absolute nuts with 2 backdoor flush draws. And he has 7s as well, so it decreases the chance that his opponents can have the straight. Check round to Maritz, who's got also 2 backdoor flush draws with bottom set and an 8 blocker. Also blocks the straight with that 9. All in all, quite a nice hand to continue with. He calls. Andre in C8, of course, has the absolute lot, and he's got the redraws to the relot. Not sure why Maritz is in there. And Miron here looks like he's got a bit of a decision. 349 to call in a pot that would be over 1,000, so needs 33% equity, decides that he doesn't have it. And Marius here, with all the dead money in there, might be forced to go for the old stack off. Certainly been on the more action side of things from the games I've played with him. Adar, thanks very much for the host, really appreciate that. Whereabouts are you tuning in from? Problem is with his pocket 6s there, he does have that 8 which blocks some of his outs, but it's going to be quadzillas. Have they only run it once? Nope, more times, that makes sense. The pot is over 1,000. Jack on the turn, which limits his outs. 9 on the river, and they're going to chop the lot. So if you are just tuning in, wondering what's going on, we are here in Bucharest, Romania for the Cash Game Festival, running alongside the NetBet Open. You can see the banner there towards the left of the screen. So the action is going to be hotting up here as the week develops. So far, looking across the room, we have three cash games running outside of the official TV table. I can see some 1-2. Not too sure what the stakes is in the middle. Looks like they're holding a few cards, and I heard them running it twice earlier, so more likely to be Omaha. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the week as it develops. Should be a lot of fun. So Bera, hand isn't that great from the cutoff there with Queen Jack 10-10-6. Decides he wants to peel. He does have the benefit of position, I guess. Some connectivity there with the Queen Jack 10 and the 6 also. And Andre with his double suited kings and an ace blocker, a perfect hand to squeeze from the small blind with. You want to get more money in a lower stack to pot ratio, which makes your decisions post flop a little bit easier. And the benefit of that is also that everyone's likely to call. So ace on the flop, Andre flopping top and bottom with two backdoor flush draws, both. So certainly helps his hand. 28% there for Ante. What's he got? He's just got top pair, but he's got some better overcards. Blocking top set quite heavily, which is what Andre is essentially representing. Georgescu comes in for it. He's going to probably be more likely to be weighted towards straight draws based on the opponent's hands. Ooh, 4 on the turn from Andre. Really nice card for him. Improving to falls full of aces. Might be a bit tough to get 2 streets of value, so we could start with the check now. Our hand does look like aces, so if we do get action now, it's going to be likely to be possibly 7s. Be tough for either of the opponents who have continued with 7-4. Looks like he's potted it, or 80% I should say. And Ante and Georgescu get out the way. Ante wondering if he's been had there with the ace king, but no, your opponent did have the goods. Perfect. So welcome once again, guys. Cash Game Festival in Bucharest. Kicking things off with some 4 or 5 card PLO, which has become one of the staples of every event that we do put on for you guys. Lots of Omaha action, and the room is bustling. Thanks very much. Are you still watching, Sam? How are you getting on, pal? So Marius here with the queens and the 9-4 of diamonds. It's just an open fold, I think, in an 8-handed live PLO realm. Yeah, not the best hand. Does look a lot better than it is. So Berra here with the absolute lot, and he's got that overcard to fall back on as well.
Pass. Call 15. Pass. Check. Bet 50 call. Full house names.
All right. So Berra taking that one down there as Marius paying off on the river with the rivered flush, and unfortunately for him, he was dead on the flop. So a little bit of an ambitious call there. Maybe putting his opponent on just an ace with some sort of bluff. Unfortunate. I was wondering, do you mind asking the dealer what the rake structure is on 2-5 or 1-3, if it's any less? Is it 1-2 you're playing, Sam, or 1-3? Marius there in suit 5 deciding to fold that one. I think that's a good decision. Just a one nut suit there. Stefan's got a very playable hand here. Definitely want to be opening that up. Ace King 9-8 double suited. Thanks for letting us know, Sam. So 4% capped at 25 for 2-5. That's not awful. So Jack 10-3 here. Great flop for Stefan, flopping gut shots. He's got the bottom end of the open ender, as well. And a king high flush draw, so going to be betting 24 and just taking it down there. Certainly a hand that plays well if you don't get raised. If you do get raised, you are likely to be running into some things like nut flush draws, sets, and the like. So can be quite deceiving, those kind of hands in 5 card, that's for sure. Marius here with Ace King Jack 10, fortunately only with a Jack suit, but I think it's good enough to open with the connectivity. Decides to limp, don't mind that option either. I think it's quite nice to play your entire range in 5 card Omaha as a limp under the gun. Just because you are likely to be out of position, However, if you've got a lot of stationary players on the table, there's not much to be said for either way. You want to get some more money in the pot when they're just going to call with hands that you completely dominate anyway. Looks like Andre's had enough. Going to be popping it up there with the 3 hearts. King Jack 654. Why not? And Maritz is in. Miron's in. Stefan now. It's come back round to him. Only 8 to go. Multi-way does have a nut draw with the diamonds. Certainly, and that you want to be coming along with multi-way. And there are 2 diamonds, so pretty nice flop for him. Got himself gut shot as well with the ace-5, so 4 for him would be the business. And let's have a look here. Marius does have top 2, so he looks quite interested, doesn't he, there in suit 5. Studying the board quite aggressively. Goes for the middle finger check. And Stefan now with that nut flush draw also deciding to check, so playing his hand a little bit deceptively. Does have plenty of equity to be able to try and thin the field out a little bit. Get some hands like overpairs to fold, get some hands that have equity like a jack with nothing else that might fold. Thin him out a bit. Andre swapped himself the wrap 654, so any 654 or ace will be the lot for him. Does have a 6 of diamonds blocker as well, which has, you know, a minuscule amount of relevance. Okay, so the turn card now, and it looks like Marius is definitely in there in seat 5 still as well, so not sure what's going on with the graphics. Stefan now improving to middle 2 pair with the 8-3 with his diamonds, still quite a way behind. And Marius now deciding to lead out for 200 euros. Does have the best hand with that Jack 3, but Stefan's going to call. He's got a couple of ways to get there. An 8 first and foremost, or a diamond, of course. Oh no, Stefan bet the 200. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. Marius's turn bet there for 200 would be on the thin side, that's for sure. So Marius just trying to work this one out, putting the pieces of the puzzle together. Problem is with his hand that he can't really improve. Just a jack or a 3 on a relatively wet board, there's going to be a lot of bad cards for him. Does have a 10, which holds some significance in the fact that he blocks some straights or gut shots that could get there on the river. But I think just trying to work out what Stefan has here, I think, and he's thinking it might be a bit more weighted towards, you know, combo draws, and Marius does have a lot of better hands in his range here. It looks like they're still doing some post-muck negotiations. Yeah, Jack 3 there. Not an awful lot he could do without any redraws. 7 of hearts on the river. Would have been relatively inconsequential.
În curând vom da startul high rollerului. Evenimentul high roller va începe în curând, coinul este de 660 de euro. Jucătorii interesați, așteptați la înregistrări.
So as we move on to another hand, 2-2, pot limit Omaha, 4 or 5 cards, dealer's choice. And as it usually is the case, the most amount of cards on offer is what we're offering. Good to see that we've started to pick up a lot more of the graphics now, which is a bonus because we get a bit more of an insight into what's going on. Andre here popping it up with his Ace King 8-8-7. Definitely on the looser side pre-flop. I think the hand's closer to a fold than a raise. With 3 diamonds as well, I'd probably just let it go. Going to be loads of better spots to get in this game, that's for sure, with people playing so wide pre-flop. As you can see, look, 7 ways to a flop. Really nice spot to just be a little bit more cozy with your pre-flop hand selection. Tighten that, and it's going to be tougher to make mistakes post-flop if you are in these 7-way pots with a non-nutted draw. Things can get dicey. However, saying that, Andre does flop the open-ended straight flush draw, and he has the nut diamonds to go with it as well. Ante has top set, unfortunately with a 4 blocker, which limits the amount of times he can get there if he does need the full house by the river. And swing and a miss for pretty much everyone else apart from Marius, who has a wrap, that King Jack Queen working for him. Seat 3 Marius, that is. So Stefan is going to lead out for 55 with the absolute burgers. Just bottom pair and a 6 high flush draw. Ambitious, that's for sure. Andre, of course, calling. Ante is going to pot it and, you know, try and get a couple of the stragglers out. If you can fold out some equity, great. You know, even a hand like those, the 6-6-5-4 deuce has some backdoor straight draws that could get you in trouble. And Marius in seat 3, just deciding to Shipovitsky. Only top pair and a wrap. Andre's going to be all in as well. He's got the open-ended straight flush draw. Both of those outs are taken by his opponents on the flop. So Andre needs a 6 or a diamond. Ante is just looking to fade everything, and Marius is looking for a king, queen, jack, or like running kings, queens, or jacks. Also, an 8 would be good for Marius as well, but 2 of those taken by Andre, so. Seven on the turn, changes nothing. And an ace on the river, so the first board goes to Ante with that top set, holding up, no one with the jack 8 there. Second board. 3 of hearts, giving some backdoor equity to, oh no, he wasn't in the pot anymore, so 4 on the river, and Ante scoops 2 boards in a 3-way all-in. What a life. Looks like he's chipped up now to 1.8k, and just going to have a quiet sip of beer. Oh, looks like he's on the alcoholic beer this time, as he did have an injury with his leg, which meant that he couldn't drink due to the pain medication. But good to see him back in the mix with the beer flowing, and a 1.6k pot is heading his way. Looks like he's going to be the leader on the table for the PLO trophy here, which is going to be a 1k package that's given away in conjunction with winning the most amount of big blinds in a single session. We've got about 4 or 5 PLO sessions across the week. If you do win the most amount of big blinds in the 2-hour slot, you're going to get yourself a free hospitality and accommodation package to a cash game festival stop of your choice in 2020. Looking forward to that. Ante, go, go, go! Getting it done for the Scandinavians is our man Ante. Look at that beautiful stack. Loads of 25s there, and looks like we've got the black chips, which must be 100. Stefan in the straddle, and Ante picks up single-suited queens. He's going to pop it up to what looks like 10. The red chips at 5 each. Interesting if he's using this 10 sizing to see later on if that's a balanced opening sizing, or if he is sort of potting with the stronger hands like aces and double-suited kings and the like. Bearer there in the mix in the big blind with 10, 9, 8, 7, 3. Does have some hearts and some, obviously, a four-liner to the straight in his hand. Is relatively playable, but you know, you want to be careful with v-pipping too many of these hands, because they are they're only sort of one-dimensional. You don't have any nutted flush draws. You're just hoping for the straight and the straight only. Okay, so Ante back to back now with top set on the flop. What a life. Gets a customer as well in Georgescu there. So based on that call with 3 players behind, much more likely to be looking at some diamonds for Georgescu. Ace on the turn should be relatively safe. Ante would be likely to think that someone would have 3-bet the aces if they did have it. Goes for 100. I think his hand could do with a little bit more protection than that. Want to be ramping it up, you know, towards around pot. And these sort of sizes, I think that people will react if it's pot, but will basically call up to 90% if they are chasing. That ace on the river there, a little bit of a scare card now for Ante, who improves to a full house, but does lose to a few hands that could have called him on the flop. Let's just have a look at that flop texture again, see if we can deduce what sort of ace full houses that his opponents could have. Looks like he's going to tank and check, and Georgescu there with that immediate look towards his own stack, which I'm not too sure what that means. He checks as well, so looks like Ante wins with the queens. Georgescu not happy. Oh wow, and Ante had a 7 and a 2 in his hand as well, so what's that there? The nut flush draw for Georgescu, who didn't have anything with it and didn't decide to turn his aces into a bluff there. And it might have worked versus queens and 7s. I mean, how do they really call? However, Ante with all of the full house blockers there probably would have ended up calling. So thanks very much to the 42 of you railing this 2-2-4/5 card. It's been announced in real time that they are on their last couple of hands, so probably about, on the stream, 5 or 6 hands to go. Ante there stacking up very nicely, just winning a huge 1.6k pot and then following it up with top set to boot next hand to go. So running hot and continuing his run in the Sveton special game, where he won an incredible 2,000 in a split pot game and won himself the package, but gave it to second place, I believe, which is very, very generous of him. Looks like we've got some double straddles going on as well. Good to see. And Ante with 3 kings. He can't find another top set, can he? Order restored. And it's a couple of spades out there for anyone. Yes, Andre there has the jack high spade draw with an overpair. Ante's just going to start betting right away. Leads for a round pot. Has the king of spades, has the deuce. Might think his hand is good sometimes. Might just want to fold out some equity, to be honest. So, you know, I think 4 ways it could be a little bit more on the ambitious side, but I like to see someone, always like to see someone not just having the nuts every time. So I wonder if Andre's carried on because he had the queens. Yes, he is in the pot and he's turned top set now with a flush draw, and he's also got the wrap, so it's the absolute gin for him on the turn. Praying that someone bets, and Georgescu's done exactly that. So Andre here with the absolute lot. He's all in for 4, 5, 7. I mean, his hand is so strong he could even just call here to try and get Ante in and then lead the river. Like, what's really a bad card for him? I guess a spade because he doesn't have the nut spades, but you know, any or maybe some low cards if his opponent had like a 4, 5, 6 in there or something like that. Unlikely to be potting that 3 ways, but you never know. So Georgescu in another tough spot, and it feels like he's not had the best of runs so far in terms of the cards that he's been dealt with and the situations that he's faced. And mulling it over, we can't see his whole cards once again, as he ponders it with a very serious looking sort of expression there. Pained, one might say. And a reluctant looking fold there. Potentially had a hand like the nut flush draw with 2 pair. We will never find out. So it looks like Georgescu popping it up on the 8 straddle, potentially a little bit frustrated with how his mini session has gone so far. Not really had the best of it. Ante with a very trashy hand there in the first straddle. He's not going to be playing that, that's for sure. Oh, here we go. We've actually not seen double suited aces yet, which is incredible for 5 card. And Marius here is going to be potting it for sure. Off that relatively short stack. Yep, goes to 32. Ante looks interested here. And that looks like a call. Wow, he really going for it is Ante. Calling with Jack 9, 5, deuce, deuce. Sometimes if you're on a heater, you just got to play the cards. I mean, that's what it says in the Super System anyway. So Georgescu folding, and Miron there in the hijack will certainly be coming along. There's not very often that people limp to fold to a pot size raised in 5 card Omaha. What they're doing there is just trying to get in the pot a little bit cheaper so that they can have some sort of control over the sides of the pot. And oh my god, Ante once again with the absolute lot. Flops are straight. What else have we got there? I think Marius has a set of 8s. It's going to struggle to. It's going to be difficult to improve though with this hand. He's just had the backdoor hearts. Might be able to turn his aces into a bluff if one of those Broadway sort of straight becomes available. And Berra here in seat 6 has the nut blockers with a spade draw as well. And I like his decision to bet. $135. Ante, you can see with the nuts, but only 22% equities. He's got absolutely nothing to go with it. Amazing that Marius is 59% there on the flop with bottom set. Not sure if that's a graphical error or what's going on there, but yep, Ante is gonna pot it, try and get some of the customers out of there with some equity. Better straight draws, flush draws. They're not going to be wanting to stack off, that's for sure. Ooh. And, you know, it's a job well done if you can get Berra to fold the jack-high flush draw here. But I think he's just going to lay it down. You don't usually bluff into a multi-way pot and then decide to call it off anyway. Just posturing here. I don't think he's going to ever be calling off here with pocket jacks. Yeah.
Pe durata pauzei vom face chip-up la fisele de 25.
So the V-pips there, some pretty high numbers, is quite common in live 5-card Omaha. And that's where the value is. 88%. That's 8 out of 9 hands being played there. Wow. So if you are enjoying the stream, guys, please do feel free to share on social media, twitch.tv/cashgamefestival. And get across over to some of our social media channels as well. There's some great content put out by the team. Instagram.com/cashgamefestival, Twitter.com/cashfestival, and YouTube.com/cashgamefestival. Some really high quality stuff being put out there. Not getting as much attention as I think it deserves. So, double-suited aces for Miron now, but not both nut suits. Still, obviously, a very high-value hand in 5-card Omaha. Gnot74 says N. What does that mean? No? Or, not sure what you're getting at there, pal. So Ante, with no jack in his hand, is going to bet the flop. And if he does decide to double barrel, it would work on this occasion. But Stefan, having floated the flop now, going for the bet on the turn, as he did turn some equity. And pretty gangster float there from Stefan, getting the job done. Didn't have a jack in his hand, wasn't scared. just comes along for the ride on 15 on the flop and bets when check 2 on the turn. Got to get your stretches in, especially when you're sitting down pretty much for a living, as I do. Can get very, oh, there we go, much better. So from what we've seen so far, the game has been fluctuating in terms of the action. We saw towards the start a very slowly paced game, and now, as we are approaching the end, things are hotting up a little bit, which is good to see. Oh, back to 4-card. That's the first time we've been playing 4-card for a while. And no surprise to see there a professional on the button choosing the 4 cards, possibly thinking he's got a bigger edge, as his opponents are going to have slightly less equity against him. So, on the 4 straddle here, Ante is playing well and running well, and makes it 10 to go. Flopping top 2. Doesn't have any backdoor draws or any kind of additional equity, so it's a very naked hand. Does get the gin turn card for his hand. There isn't a king or a jack. The deuce of clubs, really limiting the potential of his opponents improving or turning some additional equity there, and just gets it done with a nice bet on the turn. Georgescu there out the way, and looks a little bit dejected with how things are going, unfortunately for the lad. 497 stack, and just not winning a pot so far, which is obviously a bit of a pain in the arse. So Marius there deciding to fold. He's certainly been on the tighter side, but it might just be card distribution. Berra there limping with the ace king jack 10-3. With the nut suit, I'd just be getting the action going with this hand. You dominate a hell of a lot of straight draws, and you want to get some money in, so when you do see some diamonds that you can shovel more in as well post flop, there's a lot of good things that can come from a hand that's so connected with a nut suit like that. Georgescu now popping it up from the small blind to 14. Usually tends to be very strong hands that tend to squeeze from the small blind, because you do have that positional disadvantage as you go deeper into the hand. And Berra there limp 3-betting the ace king jack 10-3. Don't mind this decision at all. You've got position relatively deep stacked, and Georgescu comes along for the ride. So 74 euros in the pot. Let's see what we're dealt with. King 10-4, decent flop for Berra there. He's got top 2 pair with the king of clubs a blocker, and he's got a gut shot to the nuts as well. A queen would be a decent card for him. I think he's asking how much the pot is. Looking to go for max protection here. Doesn't have any additional equity apart from the top 2 in terms of a live club draw or anything, and does in fact show that he did flop top 2 pair, so looks like an honest game. Ante has 37% of the chips in on the table with 2.5k. I think he's in for about somewhere between 400 or 500. Yep, he's in for 500, so a 2k profit so far, which continues on from that profit I was talking about earlier in Sviten when we were playing in Bratislava just a few weeks ago. Incredible to win that amount of money in a split pot game. Marius there in deciding to go for the limp with the king high suit. Even though earlier we did see him fold a similar hand, but with the nut suit, so potentially wanting to see some flops. It's been pretty decent action so far. Ante there picking up aces. He is just running the show at the moment from seat 1, our man Ante. Popping it up to 20, it's definitely going to get at least a couple of callers. No, Marius folded, yeah, that makes a lot more sense. And no, he's out the pot, we can see that. Just waiting for that to catch up with the graphics. Can't see Sonny's hand. There we go. So Jack 9-6. Great flop for Andre, who flops an open ender with the king high spades. About as good as it gets for king 8-8-7 deuce. Ante deciding to continue. I think it's a little bit ambitious multi-way. He does have a gut shot with the queen 8, but it's not to the nuts. He doesn't have any spades in his hand, and his hand kind of looks like what it is. So Marius there deciding to raise it up with top and bottom pair, just trying to commit his stack. And Andre here is folded. Wow, decides to fold with a double faceted hand. You know, he can have the flush draw or the open ender available to him. Lets it go. Surprising decision, I guess. A little bit worried about some of the larger stacks behind committing all of their money. And Sonny's going to get it in there in seat 3. So let's see what we're up against. He shows the nut flush draw with 10, 6, 5 with a bottom pair. Is there a gut shot in there? And there it is. So that's the spades come in. If they're going to be running multiple boards, we shall soon find out. Nine on the turn and a queen on the river gives the second hand to... Second board goes to the king 9 there. Berra was all in for 490 on the flop with basically middle pair and an open ender. Sorry, and an over pair. I think this is Maritz coming over to say that there are just a few hands to go on the feature table. It is indeed 9:30, so should be coming towards the end of it here. We are on a 30-minute delay. And later on we have some €2.5 no limit hold'em coming up for you, which should be fun. Interesting to see who's playing on that one. The level across the 2.5 games that we've had has varied, but usually been relatively reg heavy. So Andre here back in the mix, raising it up with the double suited queens and the ace blocker. Really nice hand, very playable. Pops it up. Ante deciding to 3-bet, which I don't mind starting to work in some wider 3-bets when you're really deep stacked with someone, because even in 5-card Omaha, out of position when you're super deep, it's sometimes you don't even want to 4-bet aces there, just because, one, it basically telegraphs your hand, because not really anyone 4-bets without aces in 5-card, which means that there's going to be a lot of board textures that puts you in jail, which is a reason really why you should be 3-betting and 4-betting a little bit wider, because your opponent's just going to put you on aces and you can trap them and sort of mess with them a little bit. However, Sonny cold calls here with the ace queen 8-7-4, just with one nut suit. Got in the game late, so just looking to have a bit of a blast around and see some flops. And Andre's going to call as well. So if he thought that Ante was this wide, obviously he'd want to be 4-betting and knocking out a couple of the opponents there. As you can see, just a 10-9-8-7-6-4 has 22% equity. It does indeed flop 3 pair, so good flop as well for Andre, who's got the nut flush draw with top pair and a gut shot. And the gut shot is to the nuts. Two gut shots actually, a double gutter with the a 7 would get him there as well. So Andre taking a commanding lead, and Sonny now drawing essentially dead. Ante is asking how much is in the pot. Does have 9-7 for the flop nut straight. And he is quite deep stacked with Andre here, so the money could be flying in. Marius in seat 5 with a peel pre-flop that's on the more ambitious side, but thinking that his opponents have particularly strong ranges in front of him, so hopefully he's got his own part of the board, if you know what I mean.
Blindul nu-i lasat dintre pentru main event 400-800, ante big blind 800. Acceptăm late entry și revival până la sfârșitul nivelului 10.
So pot is 182, which basically would commit the stack of Marius here. Just with the 3 pair and a player behind deciding not to go with it, I think that's a wise decision, and Andre is all in. So Andre, even though he doesn't have the nuts straight, is the mathematical favourite with a backdoor flush draw, gut shot to the nuts, flush draw, basically just the absolute lot. And Ante here is going to be looking to hold on for dear life with that nut straight. And that's a jack of diamonds, so the first board going to and yeah, unfortunately, it would have been both boards there for the 10-8-6, but they will chop the pot. It can be frustrating sometimes to have to fold a hand that you know is a good fold, but you do end up getting there. So Ante winning the second one, and Andre winning the first one with basically turned the lot with the jack of diamonds. Couldn't improve, could Ante, who just had the 1 pair, so that had locked it up for them, and they're going to chop the €47 each of dead money in there. Shosho. Just seen one of my friends, Shoshovitska, one of the guys from Bratislava, has joined the party, so looking forward to battling with him. Andre with the 9-8-6-5-4. Very playable hand, especially it being double suited. Good connectivity as well. He is in the 4 straddle by the looks of things. Ante there with single suited 10s, running like God, sorry, double suited, but looking to play pretty much every pot at the moment. Chipped up from a 500 buy into 2.6k, hell of a spin up. Marius in there with single suited to the nuts. Pretty playable hand multi-way. So ace-9-4 does indeed flop top pair top kicker. What have we got in the mix here? 14%, 27. Mirion here with top and bottom pair. Marius with the most amount of equity with all of the overcards and some backdoor draws as well. Ante is going to bet 25 though. What's he got? Not a lot. Oh no, he's just called 25. Andre has bet the 25 with 9-4 bottom 2. Turn card brings a king. And this time Miriam fires out a bet of 130, and I'm not entirely sure whether he is value betting or bluffing at this point. Ace-4 is very thin four ways on a ace-4-9 king board, that's for sure. But does get it through. Ante once again with a very playable hand here in the, what would be the 4 straddle. Looks like we've got the 8 straddle on as well from Georgescu. Sonny there hasn't been able to get much going, finding another pretty bad hand and having to fold. Marius shouldn't be playing that, but looks like... No, hang on a sec. Yeah, Berra, yeah, he folds, that makes sense. Berra calls, very loose hand with Jack 9, 8, 7, 3. Not sure why he's in there from the small blind. Never mind. Andre should probably be opening it up here, trying to force out some of the equity from the guys behind in the straddles. Yep, I like that. Makes it 100. That seems a bit big. What would pot be? 4 times 20, somewhere around 37, 38. So I don't think, unless there's been some other action, that 100 will stand. Auntie's going to be playing this hand, that's for sure. Just based on the way he's 90% VPIP so far, so he's in. And it looks like a pot of 307 in there pre-flop. So let's just wait for the graphics to catch up. Andre on this board, his kings need a little bit of protection from ace-x and hands like that. But he is going to have the best hand the majority of the time. This is the tricky thing about playing out of position, though. On boards like this, where you've got some fairly loose opponents, you just don't know whether you're going to be good. And Ante deciding to check back, did pick up a diamond draw. His 10s are never really going to be good. Might be a good time to start bluffing. Berra doesn't look like he wants any of it either. He's probably the most likely person to have a 4 in this spot. Here we go. Now we're starting to see some action. Just rep it. He's gone for the check. I think once people deliberate like that, have a look at their stack and then go for the check, it kind of does signify that they aren't going to be putting any more money into the pot, but were considering it. So Ante now, and he's probably the cogs in motion here, thinking, Maybe I can get this guy to fold aces or kings. Does decide to check back though, and it's a 10 on the river. So Ante once again running the show. Andre going for a very thin value bet now, deciding none of his opponents have a 4, much likelihood. Queens aren't there, so trying to get some value from a hand like ace queen, from a hand like jacks maybe, some sort of heroic hand that he has beat, going for a quarter pot. Ante has a clear raise here. He can't be too worried about bearer behind, who's shown no interest in the pot. And you know, if your opponent has slow played queens here, then you know, fair enough. It would just be a disaster just to flat call here if you can try and put some hands in the bin, like the one he's up against. And Andre, this is kind of a weird spot for him, as he has gone for thin value and been raised, and the only hand that makes sense is tens, which is the rivered full house. It's a really tough spot here because he might think that his opponent would turn a hand like queen 10 into a bluff on the river based on this sort of thin value betting range that he is representing. It's tough when you've got two opponents to go for a value bet when you are really capped, because certainly better opponents will start to pick up on that and apply pressure in situations like this where, you know, you're betting but never really calling a raise based on the actions. Deciding what he's going to do. I think the shrewd play is to fold. Obviously we can see the cards here, but I think it's just going to be a very underbluff spot. Is that a call? Is there an action line? I don't think there is an action line. It's just potentially the verbal decision. This is what I think some players miss out on, the fact that he's not looking for any verbal or physical tells. He's not really trying to interrogate his opponent. It's a free roll. You know, if you're asking your opponent on the river, you know, what have you got, or trying to work out what, you know, what's going on with their body language, how they're reacting to your actions, you know, you could potentially gain something from nothing. So it's an important thing to do. Looks like that's going to be the end of that for the 2, 2, 4 and 5 card. Our big winner, Ante, with 2,900 cash out, won just under 500 big blinds. And a great start for him, continuing on that run good from the Sviten stream in Bratislava. We're going to be back in about half an hour, guys, for some 2-5 Hold'em. Looking forward to it. See you then. Bye-bye.
Cash Game Festival in Bratislava, Day 5.
And you still have a chance to join it.
Cash Game Festival.
It's Cash Game Festival.
Cash Game Festival.
Ladies, girls and boys and men, don't ever miss the Cash Game Festival.
I've been coming to Cash Game Festival for some time now. The games are amazing, the people are amazing, like, look at the venue. You meet so many amazing people here. That's one of the things that I really value here.
The atmosphere at the table is really nice. It's been really nice chatty table.
It's totally amazing. It's definitely the best hotel I've ever been to.
You are not only in for the games, but every night there are these fun side activities, and it's always nice to have these activities.
I've been to similar parties some days ago, some years ago, but this one is very high level.
at home, sitting at the tables. The games are quite soft, to be honest, and it's nice people.
Make sure if you haven't been yet to Cash Game Festival, you have to come.
Crew is amazing, the people, everything is